I'd like to introduce you to my daughter and her husband, my daughter Carolyn and her husband Mohammed, and they have a business in Morocco, and their son Oliver is here.
Oh, that's Mr. Oliver! Hey, hello!
Okay. And Oliver goes to school here in the UK. Now, Carolyn, would you like to tell us how you and Mohammed met and how you first decided to set up your travel business and why?
I went to Morocco on holiday with a friend of mine and stayed in a village in the mountains. I could see quite a lot of things which I thought could be improved without changing how the people were or how the village was, but that would make things a bit better. So when I came back, I spoke to an Exodus guide who had tried to set up projects in the village before but had been unable to because of the language barrier. He had known Mohammed since Mohammed was 18, and Mohammed used to work in the Gîte, which was where most tourists stayed when they came to the village. And he worked there with his brother. They were both cooks in the kitchen, but they used to take the mule up the mountains for picnics with tourists. They also used to take people to their family house for tea, especially ones who didn't want to do walking. So people were invited to their house to have tea and eat biscuits and just see what it was like in a Berber home. So originally I went back for a month to Morocco to travel around in various areas to see how realistic it was to do projects there and what was available, and also to see a bit more of the culture because different areas are different. Cities are quite westernised, whereas rural communities are much the same as they've always been, apart from the architecture started to change in the last 10 years. So I was contacted by the guide who did the projects, and he said, if you're interested in going there, then I've been looking for somebody who can help because of the language barrier, but you speak French, so that should be okay. And we'd like to do more in the village, but we just haven't been able to in the past because there's no one that we can communicate with, because at the time there was no mobile phone access. You literally had to walk to be in direct line with a mobile phone mast, which was 5 kilometres away, and it took about 3 years from then before it was possible to make a mobile phone call from the house. So it was very difficult communication-wise. People in general, if they were under the age of 35, could read Arabic, but they couldn't read French and they couldn't read English. So trying to deal with a travel agency that's British and no one being able to speak a communal language was rather difficult. So when I went, it made it easier for them to communicate because I could say to the villagers what was being suggested, and I could do it the other way round. Because Mohammed and his brother and everyone under 35 could speak French but not read it, it meant that I could then do the communications back of what was needed or wanted by the villagers. So that's the start of it.
But how did you guys end up together? I just want to know that. Is there romance after that, or?
I lived in Mohammed's house.
Yeah.
When I first went over there, and I was friends with his sisters who were both younger.
Yeah.
They used to use me as the buffer between the brothers and them, because culturally the girls didn't have much of a say and the mum will always side with the boys.
Oh, okay.
So the girls used to say, tell them to give us the remote control for the TV, because TV hadn't been around there for very much. Because electricity was relatively new at the time. It had only been there for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And previous to that, people didn't have TVs and there was no point in having mobile phones because you couldn't use them. So a lot of technological changes happened in a period of about 12 years. Things have changed a lot, including the structure of buildings, because a lot more people are building in a city style now as opposed to rural rocks and earth structures which were previously there.
Okay.
Tell them about the carpets. Because Mohammed's sisters made carpets, didn't they? And his mum.
Before, now it's finished.
An activity for the girls is to make carpets, which they do with other female family members. But once they get married, they move to the husband's home, and then they'll make carpets in the husband's home. And once the mum's been left on her own, that part of her life is only carried on if she goes to neighbours' houses and then carries on making carpets. But each house has their own type of design that they put into a carpet, and they can copy a design from another carpet just by looking at it. So it's like looking at handmade. A photo. Yeah.
Wow.
So you can buy wool now, but people still traditionally harvest the wool, and then they'll wash it, dye it, spin it, hang it to dry, and then they'll cut it into the small strands using hand winders. So they don't have spinning wheels, they literally use a little box with a pole on it and a line cut through it, so you can just cut it with the scalpel to get your little strands of carpet. And Berber carpet is about the 3rd most famous type of carpet in the world.
So how long that process would take for you to finish, from start to finish, make a carpet? I mean,
to make a carpet, it depends on the size of the carpet. A relatively small one can take about 7 days to 10 days. Bigger ones can take a month or more. It really depends how much time the women spend doing it, because the women have to look after the children, they have to do the cooking, they have to clean the house, they have to feed the animals, and then they do that in their
what do men do then?
Called their leisure time.
It's a very interesting question.
Well, men go and help shepherds who are further up the mountains with their livestock, because livestock are still like currency. So if you've got a shepherd who's quite a lot of kilometres away with your sheep, and there's a report of bad weather or something on the TV, you go and help the shepherd to make sure that all the sheep and the goats have enough food, or that the bergerie, which is like in the biblical sort of stone wall, which they take down so that the animals can get in, and then build the wall up at night to stop other animals from getting over the wall and into the sheep pen. And they also have a little roofed section, so if the weather's bad, the shepherd sleeps under there, and so does some of the sheep. But they have to collect the food for them, because you can't expect one shepherd to do it for 100 or more sheep and goats that he might be looking after. But there's various different sheep folds in lots of areas of the mountains, and the shepherds also have to take people to lakes or streams which come out of the ground to be able to give the sheep and goats water every day. And that tends to be a time when you'll get several shepherds will come together, and then they'll have tea, and then they'll eat things either over an open fire, or they'll, if they're at the lake and they have the equipment to do it, they can fish. But Mohammed can fish with a tin can and a line and still get fish from a lake that's 2,600 metres above sea level.
Very good.
So that's trout that they can get from there. But most of the streams and rivers, because they're to do with how much rainfall there is higher in the mountains, they run dry, so they don't have fish in. But there's this one lake that's about 4.5 hours walk from the village that somebody decided to put trout in, and they bred very well in there. So it's people go up there to fish and camp, and the shepherds take the sheep there to drink. So if they have got something with them, they can catch fish and then cook them over a fire.
That's good.
So sometimes we take people up there if they want to go for a longer, more difficult walk. We take people there and they go camping. So Mohammed does that, but he also used to take people up with a mule and just do day walks up there, and with a picnic, usually consisting of fresh vegetables, fresh bread, tea that could be made over an open fire.
So what's the weather like if you guys do the camping? What's the best season? I mean, if people wants to go...
If people want to go camping, then generally you don't want to go when the evenings are too cold, so you'd pretty much go... it still can be pretty cold until towards the middle of April in the evening, but it can be quite hot during the day. So normally we say April to the end of June is a good time, because it's not too hot. And also there'll be less weed and things in the lake, so it'll be extremely blue and look clear. Whereas if you go later in the season when there's been a lot of plant activity, the water level goes down and you see more of the plants. The water is very cold because it's ground source fed, it's not from a stream or a lake or anything.
Okay.
But the mountain near the lake, because it's 3,600 metres above sea level, can quite often still have snow at the peak of it, depending on how hot it is at the top. But often it has it pretty much most of the year, snow at the top.
And can I ask one more question?
Go on.
So how about the cost then? So if people want to go there...
For camping, we just charge for the people who are going with the mule.
Yeah?
So it's between 100 and 150 dirhams a day.
For a day, okay.
Yep, so in English money, that's about £11, £12.
Pretty good.
So that's for the mule, which carries the camping equipment, and the man
food.
who goes with the mule. And then
Is the
if
food
people want
included?
to use one of the tents, then it depends how many people are coming. If it's a couple of people, then we usually charge it the same as we would if it was a homestay or a Casbah stay in the village. So it's about 250 or 300 dirhams.
That's about 20 pounds, yeah?
It's about 17...
17 to...
Depending on the size of the group, because if you have a large group, the prices come down.
Yep.
But
how about food? Do they need to bring their own food? Or
no, we do the food. But if you're going to the lake, it's either that Mohammed and other people who go up there will fish and get the fish, and then put spices and things on them and cook them over an open fire.
Cool.
Or you can do a meshwi, which is buying a sheep or a goat from one of the shepherds, and then they'll cook it between rocks with a fire.
Very good.
Or you can just take picnic food with you, because if you're vegetarian or you just eat fish and don't eat meat, then you take the vegetables and the bread and the other things that you want to eat up with you, and then you bring the rubbish back if it's not something that can be disposed of using a fire, so that you keep the environment clean around there as well.
You can ask one more question?
One more?
Yeah?
Can you tell us a bit about the weddings?
Mohammed's been to more weddings than me, because I usually, when I visit the village, it's usually late night stuff, so I can't go because of having a younger child. But weddings can go on for several days, usually starting with a henna night at the girls' house, where local ladies and girls go to the house of the bride-to-be, and they give presents. Usually like cones of sugar for people who don't have very much money, or just small gifts, or gifts that would be useful when they go to their husband's house, like blankets or an old suitcase or cut glasses, things like that they can use. But quite often the girls are moving to a mother-in-law's house, so the things that they get for their marriage will end up being in the marital bedroom in the house.
Same as us.
Yeah,
we do the similar thing.
So when the girls have had the henna night, it could be the next day or it may be a couple of days later. Because legal papers and things have usually been done before that. So you go to your local, it's usually the local administrative office. It's a bit like going to the council. And you have your information registered there. So they check that people are available to marry. They also have to do a solicitor, but then they usually go to the nearest large town for that, as opposed to the local main village where they come from. So in the case of the village, it's Alzazat. People go to the family court and they go to a solicitor. The solicitor registers the papers with the family court. The family court registers everything. If there's no previous marriages or anything, it's not so complicated. But you have to have a witness. You only need one witness, and they do the papers with the solicitor when the
can be a family member, right?
Yeah, it can be a cousin, or it can be a friend, it can be anybody. But if you've been married before and your partner has died, then you have to prove with stamps from various chiefs of the area that your partner has died, because otherwise you have to have permission to marry a second wife.
Okay.
So you need proof that the first one's dead.
This is for men, right?
This is for the man.
But for women,
yeah.
with the
For
same
women,
processor?
Well,
the same
for
process?
women, if they've been married before, they would have to have divorce papers to prove that they're divorced. But women don't marry. They won't be married to two people, whereas men are allowed to if the first wife says it's okay.
Yeah.
But once the marriage papers have been done, it's really up to the family when they want to do the celebration. But when they do it, there's a celebration in the women's house, which is different, and one in the man's house. And then someone from the man's house, or a group of men from the man's house usually, will go. If it's not a long distance, they will go with the mule to collect the girl. And then bring her up to the family house.
Yeah.
But if she lives in like 2.5 hours away, they'll go in a local minibus and they'll have flowers and things on the minibus.
Yeah.
And then bring her back to the marital home.
And how about you? Did they send any cars over to pick you up? No.
Then they'll have the celebration, but women and men are kept separate. So women will have a room in the house and men will have a room in the house. And the family is just busy serving everybody. They don't really get to see what happens in a wedding because they're so busy serving everybody.
Until the wedding night, yeah?
And then the wedding night, for girls who haven't been married before, it's still traditional to have people sitting outside the bedroom door. And then the next morning, they will go and either have a hammam or they will both go for showers separately at another house that has bathing facilities, because not all houses have, well, in fact, there's only one that has a modern bathroom. The rest of them is a shower or bathing using a bucket and jugs of water.
Wow.
So,
but
good. they can use the hammam if it's a big wedding. People will light the village hammam, and then the ladies will go. So the younger ladies will go with the bride to make sure that she's all cleaned, and then the same thing happens with the men. The men will go to the hammam with the groom, and then life just goes on as normal. Although they do it across several days, so they do something called brocox, which is rice, and then I call it melted butter, brocox.
Brocox, yeah. And
so it's like mushy rice with very orange butter in the middle.
Okay.
And that's prepared at the husband's house, and everybody comes again. But they also have a day where it's just family, so aunts, grandparents, uncles, cousins, they all come. And that's on a different day to when they have all the friends from villages and towns and everything who come.
Very good.
So it's quite a long process. It can be 4 or 5 days.
Okay, we're getting to the end. I just want to ask you, each of you guys, one more question. It's going to be a very simple one. So you're from different cultures and then you married with each other. Just give me something you noticed is quite different in the other part of the culture. So for these years of living together, and you know what you learned from their culture, and for Mohammed, what you learned from this culture. Give me something quite interesting here. Yeah.
Well, their culture is less materialistic, although they're becoming more materialistic.
Yeah.
Because access to TV means there's things that you want, whereas before they were quite happy with not having very much. So if you visited the village now, you can see that houses are very simple. Mostly people sit on carpets that are folded over on the floor.
Yeah.
And they also sleep on them unless they have beds, which have started to creep in, that people as they get married want to move up in the world, so they'll get wardrobes for the bedroom and they'll get a bed.
Yeah.
A few years ago, that just didn't happen.
All sleep
you
on
would
the
just
floor.
all sleep on the floor.
Okay.
In the salon usually, or another room of an equivalent size in the house.
Okay.
And the women are still very much, it's women stay with women, men stay with the men.
Okay.
Men spend more time watching TV than women do. But generally, working, if it's stuff to do with the house, the women are doing it, or to do with the animals, and the women also help with harvest, but the men do things like ploughing the fields with the mules, and harvesting nuts and things is a job for both sets. Girls do charcoal gathering as well, so they'll go up and collect wood and turn it into charcoal and then bring it back. but men are the ones that earn money. It's still not a big thing for women in mountain communities to earn their own money.
Okay.
It's men who sell crops or do jobs like irrigation, watching someone else's irrigation, because you have to do your irrigation at night so you don't have evaporation. So you see torches out in the fields at night, which is people changing the routes.
So it's
of
more like a
irrigation
heavy labor
channels.
work is for men to do. Light work.
Although
for
men
women
say
to-
women have stronger backs than men, so you never see a man carrying a big load of sticks or crops on their back. That's
But
the
women
women's
do it.
job. If you see the men carrying heavy stuff, it's because they're carrying something with the help of a mule.
Okay.
So
And
qu'est-ce
you?
que tu penses pour
You noticed
culture
anything?
anglais?
It's good. So just really cold.
Anything you noticed from this culture? From
No,
English
I like-
culture?
I like
You like it?
I like it, yeah.
Yeah, of course. It's something different.
Yeah,
Of
it's
course you like.
different in Morocco, yeah. It's
Yeah.
really different. Yeah.
Can you name one too?
I like shopping.
Oh, really?
Like,
Big shopping mall, huh?
Yeah, big shopping.
Wow. What else?
Huh?
What else?
Anytime, just look in or buy anytime, yeah.
He likes coffee shops.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Is there anything here you don't have back in Morocco? You
No,
noticed?
I have same. Just me, I live in village, no in town.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Marrakesh, I have many shopping. Casablanca.
Good. Good. Okay.
But you generally have to use public transport because people in the mountains don't own vehicles in general.
Okay. So how do you go to cities?
By
You-
bus.
Bus
Oh,
or
take a bus.
taxi, yeah.
Okay.
The minibus up there, the door is held on with a rope.
Oh. Wow.
And
Okay.
the bus that goes on the road. All of the vehicles are serviced regularly, they
Yeah.
have to be. But a lot of them, if they were in England, someone asked me once how much their minibus would be worth in England. I said it'd be worth nothing, it had been on the scrap heap years ago. But they keep them going, so it's more mechanical, it's not
Oliver, come.
computerised. So
Oliver, come on.
if it breaks, they fix it.
Yeah. It's the Finnish words.
Enough, you have your own phone.
Very good.
But the reason that we did homestays in the Casbah was so that people could experience Moroccan culture as opposed to staying
Yeah.
in a hotel where everything's done for you. People who stay in homestays can see what it's like to be in a family for a period of time.
Yep.
And people who stay in the Casbah can do cooking in the kitchen with the members of the family who cook in the kitchen. It's just that the Casbah's a bit more comfortable than staying in a house because you've got beds to sleep on
Yeah.
and there's showers and